Chris Edwards, Rob Lambert, Management Information Systems Group here at Cranfield. We're in tough times. Value is at the top of everybody's agenda right now. The IT director who says, I find it really difficult to get FaceTime with my boss at the moment. He's more concerned with what the customer is after, really kind of has a view of what I'm doing as IT, as plumbing. What's your what help can you give the IT director to frame the debate around that sort of thing? Because it seems to me that there is value in IT, but as an outsider, I'm not clear where it is.
I think a lot of people ask that very question. I think you've got to start by recognising that IT is plumbing for a start, that it's all about being able to do the right things at the right time. So, I mean, your email system's got to work, and it's got to work every day. Your logistics systems have got to get the information off, the goods off to the customers. The basics have absolutely got to be right. But that's the beginning. That's taken for granted. That's what everybody does. And if they don't do that, they shouldn't even be in the job. So what's the next step up this staircase? I think it's about saying, well, what is our business trying to achieve, and how can IT help us achieve that? Let's try and explain with an example that might be clearer. Imagine a police force. Imagine a police force, when it goes to interview somebody, either stops a car or knocks on somebody's door, we want those officers to understand what's going to happen before it happens. I don't want to stop some guy who is armed maybe,
dangerous,
absolutely,
yeah.
Armed and dangerous. We don't want that. We want to know this guy's armed and dangerous. We want to know that this guy has been charged previously for certain offences. We want to know the whole story instantly before we ask them. Now, that is absolutely central to a force. If a force can do that, it will start to achieve its aims. And it seems to me that's an example of adding value rather than just the basic plumbing of running the basic systems that they have.
Where we tend to work with organisations is we try to get actually IT folk to work with their business partners around what's really critical to the success of the organisation. So as Chris said, having information about apprehending crooks before you pick them up, that sort of information. It gets stakeholders working with the IT department in a collaborative way. Much of what we do is get the IT department working with their business colleagues to understand what are they trying to achieve, what is important to them, how are they defining value, and what does value look like. So it's very much a collaborative approach to work with the business to understand what is important to them rather than trying to second guess them. So that's where we tend to work.
Okay, I mean, you've talked a little bit about the why. You've started to talk a little bit about the what and the how. The academics, sage on the stage, all very well and good being out here in Cranfield, with your books. How does that translate into real world value for IT professionals? What do you do to help them actually tackle this problem on a day-to-day basis?
I think we're unique. But then, of course, everyone would say that, wouldn't they? So let's try and explain why we're unique. We're not trainers. We're not a bunch of guys that stand in front of you and tell you I tell you about something and then walk away. Equally, we're not your consultants that come and do it for you. We're a cross between the two. What we will do is work with organisations to understand their issues, then present a tool, an approach or whatever to them, and then work through it with them and apply it in their setting, dealing with their issues. We try not to use fictitious cases. We try to use your case, your business. We try and turn it into something which is all about your organisation. And we often, weeks after the event, will go back and see how they're going on, and maybe if they're going offline a little bit, we'll try and bring them back onto script. So we're somewhere between a training organisation on the one hand and a consultancy on the other, but we really are quite unique.
Okay. In terms of the people that you work with usually though, tell me a little bit more about we've talked about IT as plumbing. Is that essentially the sort of people who you work with? You just engage with IT directors who are trying to make sure the trains run on time? What do you see the role of the IT director in a company as being?
I think that's changing. I think we've recently done some work, some joint research with Deloitte, looking at the role of the IT director, the CIO in fact, and actually what we found is it's transitory. There's no one single role for a CIO. It depends on the context of the organisation. Sometimes the CIO should just focus on getting the plumbing and keeping the lights on, the day-to-day activities. In other organisations, they need the CIO to take a more innovative role to help them understand what strategic opportunities might be available to that organisation. But it's very, very contextual. And I think the difficulty for many organisations is working out what sort of CIO do we need? Do we need this sort of CIO or that sort of CIO? And I think the whole area in many organisations is confused.
Absolutely. I think an interesting question is where CIOs will be in 25 years. Will they exist? There'll clearly be somebody in there that's keeping the plumbing going. Take that for granted. But will there be somebody in there that's inspiring the organisation to use information in different and innovative ways? Or will that have become just second nature to every manager in the business? As the guys that are coming up now, the guys that are at university today are doing this as second nature. Eventually, they'll be right at the very pinnacle of organisations. And when that happens, will you actually need somebody to inspire all these managers to do things differently? Or will it just be second nature? And the question really is, will CIOs exist in 25 years' time? Or will we just need somebody to run the plumbing?
Sure, okay. So we come back to the example we started off with, first of all, the individual who's struggling with their boss at the moment to get face time around IT. If you had maybe one or two key questions that you could say both to the boss and the IT director, these are things you should be answering, the two of you, to make sure that IT is delivering value, what sort of things would they be?
I mean, the first thing Chris has already mentioned about value, focusing on value. We have techniques here that help people work with the business to focus on value. One area we've worked on more recently is actually we've actually unveiled the myth of business cases. In most organisations, business cases for investments in IT are, well, in some organisations, works of fiction. If you have one question, it's to talk to the CIO and the CEO and say, how good are your business cases? Do they actually represent a good view on the costs, the benefits, and how you're going to track that through? That requires high quality early thinking. Much of what we do with organisations is actually filter out the less good investments, which actually makes a significant difference to the value they get overall.
Chris, any thoughts to add?
When we were doing the work with Deloitte, there was a guy on the phone that we talked to, and he made a comment that stuck in my mind. He said, most CEOs don't know how to treat CIOs because they've never seen a good one. And I think there's some truth in that. CEOs don't know what to expect, they don't know what to demand. They know what to expect of the finance director and the marketing director because they've seen good ones, but they've never actually seen a good CIO, so they don't know what to demand. And I think the things that I would put on that list are I expect you to sort the plumbing. That's got to be done, not by you, maybe by an outsourcer, maybe by one of your senior deputies, but I don't want you doing that. I want you turning this business into something different, that's something special. I want you to be part of this management team. I want you not to discuss items just about IT. I want you to discuss items about running this business and shout real loud when IT can do something special for us. I want you to be our conscience to make sure we're right at the very pinnacle of using IT to our advantage.
Chris, Rob, thanks very much for your time.